And we're right in the thick of the Venus retrograde in Scorpio. And it's like full on Scorpio right now. We've got Mercury that recently, just like a few hours ago, went into Scorpio. The moon is in Scorpio, just starting to wax after the new moon on Monday. And Jupiter, of course, is finishing up his final run in Scorpio before he moves into Sagittarius next month. So even though the sun is not quite in Scorpio yet, that's not until, later in the month, we're really feeling this week this influx of Scorpio, because even though we just had a new moon in Libra, since Venus is the ruler of Libra, we're really feeling the influence of Scorpio. So because Venus is in Scorpio retrograde until November, when she retrogrades back into Libra. So they're kind of flipping. It's interesting because when we get into Scorpio season, Venus is going to be in Libra, not in Scorpio, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, it's a good balancing point. So we're in this kind of, actually what I wanted to talk about in this video too is about the Venus-Mars dance that we're in right now. Today, Venus is squaring Mars, which is already an internal and external sort of power struggle between these two energies. Venus, of course, wanting love, beauty, and connection, and Mars being much more about the forcefulness and potentially cutting connection, wanting more competition, wanting to be the best. Mars is it's a fighting energy. So we get our fight or flight response. Venus is where we come together, we have cohesion, we have beauty and symmetry and connection. So obviously there's a chemistry between Mars and Venus, but when they're in a square, as they are now, between Venus retrograde in Scorpio and Mars in Aquarius, Mars just recently came out of his shadow from that whole summer-long saga of Mars retrograde in Aquarius. So we may be feeling this tension between, do we err on the side of being really detached and objective, or do we just go full on emotional depth, shadow, all or nothing Scorpio? The energies are very different. Both are fixed, but one is fixed water, which is all about this emotional determination and intensity, and the other is fixed air, which is a very strong, opinionated, strong, fixed mindset. So they're doing battle right now. So internally, we may be feeling like we've got these very strong ideas that want to fight for something, and then we've got this emotional fixation or obsession about something else, and they may not be on the same page, let's say. Not only that, but this Friday, we've got the sun squaring Pluto, which is another power struggle energy. So we're kind of in the midst of all these power struggles. The sun in Libra, which likes justice and peace and harmony and beauty, again, a Venus-ruled sign, but answering to Venus retrograde in Scorpio, is going to be fighting with Pluto in Capricorn. So we've been under that dismantling of the patriarchy for a while now with Pluto in Capricorn. And I think the sun squaring it, we might see some interesting situations come to a fever pitch, toward the end of the week, early into the weekend with the sun square Pluto. But in the meantime, we're really, I think, personally grappling with this Venus-Mars square and the ongoing Venus retrograde, which we've just started that whole journey. And I always think of the Venus retrograde as the descent into our own psychic underworld, especially since she's in Scorpio. It's really about plummeting our own emotional depths right now. And I actually just got back from LA. I had a wonderful time at the Los Angeles Yoga Club, LA Yoga Club downtown, teaching a workshop on Venus retrograde. And we did this whole immersion into the 7 gates, influenced by the Sumerian myth of Inanna and her descent into the underworld through the 7 gates. So I'm going to be teaming up with Caitlin Foisey, my partner in crime. I do a lot of Project 40s with her. And this is actually instead of a Project 40, instead of a 40-day immersion, it's a 7-day immersion that we're going to be doing in honor of the 7 gates for Venus retrograde. And we're going to start it when Venus enters her, when she enters her phase of what we call the descent on the 27th of October. So that's the time when we're all going to be feeling that pull to go to the next level internally, to do our Venus work, to look at our relationship patterns and and also the shadow in our relationships, like where we tend to project some of our own fears or insecurities or darkness onto the partner, or issues from the past where we felt controlled from our parents or from just people in our past, like just replaying some of those emotional traumas can get reactivated during Venus retrograde. So this is a time to really allow all of that to come to consciousness so that we can work on it and let it go and move past it, hopefully, and to evolve into a better version of ourselves as partners in relationships, instead of just complaining or expecting, the other to do the work for us, to do the heavy emotional lifting. As we say, we've got to do it ourselves, and really look at how we're showing up or not showing up in our partnerships, and, where we're maybe checked out or unconscious, and how we could be better partners through our own awakening. So Venus retrograde is a big part of that process. We should honor it. People are always complaining like, oh, Venus retrograde is a time when, things don't go so well with money, love, and beauty. But if that's happening, if that's true on the external, it's to force us back internally to look at our patterns, our our predispositions, or our complexes around relationships, those things that we just keep repeating over and over unconsciously because we haven't quite got we haven't found the point of liberation yet. We haven't really got the aha moment yet. But Venus retrograde is going to be opposing Uranus a few times in this cycle to give us that, hopefully to give us that aha moment. And Mercury right now in Scorpio is opposing Uranus to hopefully give us that sense of, there's some, like, even if it's a glimmer of an epiphany, we could get an epiphany now with that. So it's a great time to be open to something breaking through your normal patterns, your normal ways of relating and doing things that maybe no longer serve you. So I invite you to look at where you've been really stuck, patterns you are tired of repeating with love or with money or just in your relationships in general. This is an important time for us to really confront the shadow, confront where we may have been hiding secrets from ourselves or not being honest with ourselves, and to look at, what we need to face so that we can change and come into a greater depth of love and consciousness in our partnering. And this goes for all relationships, all contractual relationships. Venus rules. It's not just romantic relationships, but all our one-to-one relationships, all of our shadow dancing that we do. So this is an excellent time for that. And in terms of the descent and the 7 gates of Inanna, they're really interesting because they also coincide or correspond with the 7 chakras in the body. So I love the idea that we're coming down through the body. Like, it's like bringing us down because we're so always wanting to go up. But in order for things to really shift, we often have to come, especially during a Venus retrograde, it's about coming down through the channel. And we start with the gates. So we start with the crown chakra, and then we go down through the 7 gates. And it follows the myth. So if you're interested in that, I hope you'll join me. We're going to start that on the 27th of October. And I'll have more details up on my website this week. And but for all of us to think of this as a time of descending into our depths, into our truth, into the deepest part of who we are and how we relate. And at the core of all of this is really looking at our value system, right? Like looking at how we choose, what we choose to value, and how our values have changed. Because a lot of times we don't realize they've changed, and we're still operating under false assumptions or, a value system that is no longer actually in place. And we need to look at, okay, well, why am I still assuming that these things have value or meaning to me when I've changed, I've grown, I've outgrown them? They actually don't have the same value for me. So we might not know unless we sit down and actually look at that. And the other thing I always invite people to do is to write a Venus manifesto during this time, which is a list of what you really cherish, love, desire, and want to cherish, love, and honor and respect in the people you love the most, and how you want to show up as a partner. Because there's always so much work done about, you know, this is what I want, and asking for what you want, and trying to get this perfect partner, calling in the one or whatever. But it's really just a reflection of where you're at. So it's about starting with ourselves. If we don't like what we're pulling in or drawing in, we've got to look within to see what it is that we're magnetizing, because it's just mirroring something within our own internal relationship. So this is a really powerful time to do that kind of work. So part of the Venus Manifesto is to look at like how you want to love, what you cherish, what you value, and where you want to put all of your Venus energy moving forward into the next phase on a higher level. Like, what's the higher expression of Venus or love for you moving forward? So anyway, that's just a little kind of intro into Venus retrograde. If you'd like to go deeper, like I said, I hope you'll join me for the next 7 days, starting October 27th. But also, if you want to do a 40-day journey, I have done them in the past. I've done 2 of them actually, which is why I'm not doing another one this time, because I'm finishing up my 40 days in November. We're going to have the final one. But if you want to do like a 40-day immersion on Venus retrograde, because it was inspired by Venus doing her 40 days, 40 nights, I can also direct you to previous Project 40s that I've done with Caitlin Foisey. And you can do solo journeys, which I've just recently put on my website too. So those are available. And I don't usually do so much salesy stuff on my videos. I'm just telling you all this stuff because it's all new and I'm just getting it up, and it's very relevant to Venus retrograde. But don't worry, normally you're not going to get stuck listening to me pitching my own projects. But I do want you to have the material if it will help you through the Venus retrograde. So anyway, I hope that you're all immersed in beauty and doing the deep dive, even though it can be a little challenging because the energies are a little contentious and rough toward the end of the week with the Venus-Mars square and the Pluto-Sun square. So just avoid power struggles if you can, and just work on the inner tension of the opposites for the deeper transmutation. And yeah, wish you the best.